It's safe to say that at some point we've all struggled with a lack of self-worth. Having a sense of self-worth is so critical, so foundational to your development and your spirituality because it allows you to free up so much of your blocked energy that's being trapped worrying about whether or not you're worthy as a human being. As you begin to free up that energy, you can take that energy and put it elsewhere, put it to use toward things that are going to expand your consciousness even more. In this video, I want to give you 3 of the most transformational tools that have helped me probably more than anything on my spiritual path. And at the end of this video, I'm going to talk about the key to tying all 3 of these tools together so that you can make them work for you. But before I begin, if at any point you find that this video is helpful, then please like and subscribe so more people have access to this information. Put it in neutral. Just last week, I was at the car wash, and it was one of those drive-thrus where you get to stay in your car while your car is being washed. It's really the only time that I ever put my car in neutral. I remember as a kid, my brother and I would get really excited about getting to be in the car while it was going through this car wash. We thought there was something so cool about it because we were contained in this little space while all this stuff around us was going on. Now, this analogy of putting your car in neutral and letting it go through this car wash, to me is exactly the same as practicing neutrality on an emotional level from a spiritual standpoint. We often find ourselves in situations where we're with someone and we feel like we're literally getting beat up emotionally. Or maybe that person is just having such a hard time, and if you're an empath, then you take on what they're feeling. Nothing has helped me more than being able to practice neutrality. You gain this ability to respond to life instead of react to it. And that is incredibly powerful. When we're in a state of reactivity, when we've become identified with something that's happening to us, our emotions are in the driver's seat at that point. Who we really are goes out the window, and these other states, these highly charged emotional states take over, and they're in the driver's seat. Unlike the car wash, where you're contained in that quiet, inner, peaceful state, and all of this hustle and bustle and disruption is happening outside of you, when you're not in neutral, it's like having your windows rolled down and all that soap is flying into your face, and you have your car in drive instead of neutral, so you're ramming into things and reversing to try to backpedal, and you've exposed yourself to that outer state so much so that it's affecting you, that you've taken it on. You've allowed all of that stuff to enter into your beautiful, peaceful inner space. Let's understand what neutrality is even more. Neutrality is not numbing yourself to what's happening. It's not saying that you're not going to feel what's happening or ignore what's happening as if you were in the car and completely unaware of what was happening, ignoring the fact that your car is getting washed. That's not neutrality. Neutrality is all about allowing things to be without you losing that inner state of peace and calm. That space is your inner space. It's that space inside the vehicle. That inner space is so key to keep clean and spacious so that you don't take on these attributes, these feelings, these things that are happening outside of you. The first step in being able to practice neutrality is to recognize that there's a moment, there's a pause where you decide to put your car in neutral. When we don't take that moment to put our car in neutral, then we drive right into the chaos. We have to have that pause, that moment where we say, oh yeah, now I'm going to put this car into this gear. So it's a shifting of gears. When you shift that gear into neutral, then you're ready to take on anything. It's sort of like a paramedic that gets to a scene of an accident. If they were freaking out about what they saw in front of them and all the blood was gushing everywhere and they didn't know what to do, they would be of no use to anyone because they put themselves in the mode, in the gear of staying calm and neutral. Then they're able to handle the situation and actually be very effective. Another key critical point is that when we're in a state of neutrality, we're in a state of non-resistance to what is. Just like being in the car and observing all of the things that are happening outside, you're aware of what's happening. You're not suppressing what's happening, but you're just in this state of non-resistance, this state of allowing things to be exactly as they are. You're also not in a state of denial or pretending that everything's okay. You're just in a state of pure awareness of observing what's happening without the attachment to what's happening. Easy does it. This next step is such a critical one because it involves having a best friend, having a true support system. And that support system is you. It's having self-compassion. Compassion is a word that's tossed around a lot. My understanding of compassion is about being with someone, fully being with them. The most heightened sense of compassion that I've ever felt in my life was when my mom was dying. I had the privilege of being with her when she passed, and I remember holding her left hand and looking down at her as she took her last breaths. And the feeling that I had was that I was just with her. I was with her 1,000,000%. There wasn't a part of me that was somewhere else. I didn't need her to be different. I wasn't asking her to live. I was just being with her. I was allowing her to be. Because what we are is pure being, when we're being with someone, when we're fully present and allowing this other person to be, then we're giving them all the space, all the freedom to be who they are. And that's really being with them. That's compassion. Now we can do this for ourselves. It's no different. We can be there for ourselves. We can allow ourselves to say that it's okay to be exactly where we are without needing what we are, who we are today, right now in this very moment, to be different. The comparison trap. If you've watched any of my older videos, you might be aware of the fact that I have a special needs daughter. She's 9 years old and she's completely nonverbal, severely epileptic because she has this never seen before genetic variant. When she was first diagnosed with this condition, I was devastated. My expectations of having a typically developing child were crushed. I didn't know how I was going to handle it. I didn't know how I was going to live with her condition for the rest of my life. But she has turned out to be my greatest spiritual teacher. I often call her my little bodhisattva because she has given me a spiritual kick in the ass more than anything. She was the one that made me understand this comparison trap. If I wanted to feel bad, all I had to do was compare her to a typically developing child. But the moment, and I do mean moment, that I stopped comparing her, that feeling, that weight, that sadness would lift. It was incredible. It was such a learning experience for me because I wanted so desperately to get out from under that feeling of being crushed by my emotions. This realization that I had with my daughter about comparison was so profound that I started to wonder if I could apply this to other areas of my life. What would happen if I stopped comparing myself to other people? If I stopped putting this pressure on myself, these expectations that I had of myself to be a certain way, to be in a certain place in my life, the results were the same. It was incredible. The minute I would stop comparing myself to someone else, I would feel better. This weight, this pressure that I was putting on myself would lift. The most dangerous trap about comparison is that what we do is we increase, we strengthen separation. In truth, we're not separate from anything. We're not separate from anyone. We don't need to fortify this feeling of separation by comparing ourselves to others. But when we compare ourselves, we do believe in separation. We do believe that we're not one with everything. And maybe we're not there yet. Maybe we're not in a state of feeling at one with everything. And that's okay. That's when self-compassion comes in. Remember, you're just as special as everyone else because everyone is special. Embodiment is key. The thread that holds together all of these three powerful tools is embodiment. That's why it's called a spiritual practice. Because without practice, without experience, without embodying any of these things that I'm talking about, then they remain as concepts. They remain out of reach. The beauty of embodiment is that we get to try on these feelings, these qualities that we want to have. When we sit in meditation, we're practicing the feeling of peace, the feeling of stillness, the quality of being able to listen, the quality of being able to self-reflect. And then hopefully when we go out into the world, we can remember that feeling. We can remember those qualities that we had when we were sitting in meditation and apply them. If we don't actually try these things on, then we're never going to become them. This is easily understood if someone decides that they want to become a surgeon. If you want to be able to do open heart surgery, then you have to practice. You can't just read a book and then think that you're going to be a surgeon. It's no different when it comes to applying our spiritual practices. We need to embody them during our spiritual practice, and then when life happens, when the shit hits the fan, then we can practice them. Then we have this beautiful opportunity to try them on, to see how they work. And we can free up all of that blocked energy that's trapped inside of us so that that divinity can start to flow. That light that's in us can start to shine. I love you all so much. Until next time, remember to let go. Let go of trying to be anything other than the truth of what you are.